The drama in the sense that it's a faith-based film. And it stars Kevin Sorbo, Neil McDonough, Corbin Bernsen, Greg Perot, Sarah Fisher, really great people. And this is my third time working with Kevin. But people are like, oh, you're doing a movie with Kevin Sorbo? You know his political views. And I went, no one's ever asked me about that before, you know? And what has that got to do with the price of tea in China? We're actors. We're going to show up on and do our jobs. Kevin and I get along very well. We've known each other for years now.
Talent Talk is sponsored by Company of Rogues Actors Studio, New York-style training for actors at all stages of their journey. With our part-time classes and full-time masterclass program, Rogues provides a unique post-secondary option under the guidance of working professionals. Mentoring and developing professional film and theater artists since 1993, Calgary's longest-running independent studio offers practical hands-on classes in a positive, supportive environment. Check us out at corogues.com. Company of Rogues, passionate about the art of acting.
Hey everybody, I'm Gary McLean. You're watching Talent Talk. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, please do go to the Talent Talk YouTube channel and subscribe today. As always, the support's appreciated. Also to let you know that this podcast is available on podcast mediums such as Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, just to name a few. If you like a full list of where you can actually listen to it, check out the description details on this episode and previous episodes. And a quick shout out to our sponsors this season, which we've got a nice list of sponsors this year, which I'm very happy about. We have Company of Rogues, we have 6 Degrees, which we're actually in their lovely studio today, so thank you for that. We have Workflow Film, who's working the cameras today, so thank you guys for that. Guy, actually, there's no S on that, there's just a one-man show. We also have RJ Talent. We have Heard of One Media, we have Counting Coup Indigenous Film Academy, and finally, we have Actor Alberta. So thank you everybody for your support this year. Can't thank you enough. Now today's guest, he's actually been on the show before. He was here a couple seasons ago, but he's been busy, so we want to find out more about what he's been doing. He's a stand-up comedian, film, TV actor, a ton of credits to his name. One of his earlier credits, now I apologize, I'm dating you, goes as far back as the original 21 Jump Street series, where he was in the pilot. He's been on MacGyver, Winona Earp, Heartland, just to name a few. His more recent role, though, is portraying the character of Pastor Bruce Barnes on the Kevin Sorbo directed film Left Behind, Rise of the Antichrist. So please join me in welcoming Charles Andrew Payne.
When you start rattling off all them credits, I'm like, who is that? Is he talking about? Oh, apparently that's me.
That is you.
Thank
yes.
you. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, like I said, you've actually been busy for the last couple of years. Maybe you can give us the reduced version of what you've been doing.
The Coles notes?
Yes.
I like that you said yes. Here's the thing. That's been my motto for the last few years. Just say yes. So anybody ask me, hey, we're doing a little independent. Do you want to be part of it? Yes. Hey, you want to audition for this? Yes. Hey, I've been doing voiceover work, audio books, school presentations, comedy, online comedy during COVID, and whatever film was willing to hire me, I showed up.
Nice.
So, that was my theme for the last few years. Just say yes. This year's theme is fearless.
Okay. Well,
Every year you should pick a word that it's emblematic of how you're going to live your life for that year.
For that year.
For this year, it's fearless, and not one word. I kind of broke it into fearless, and what I mean is facing my fears, like doing publicity things, which I never like to do, and here I am.
Yeah, and actually, just before the show, you were telling me how many you've actually been doing over the last little while.
Yes.
So how intimidating has that been?
Scary.
No?
Yes, it's awkward for me. My wife, who is also, she promotes me heavily on my comedy side. She'll sell out comedy shows on my behalf, and she's the one who's like, no, because she came to a few shows when I was touring. And here's my usual mode of operations when I do a comedy show. I show up, I hide out in the back, I do my set, I get paid, and I sneak out the back door. And then she met me back at the hotel room, and she's like, so there was a bunch of people waiting out front wanting to take some pictures and thank you for the show and maybe get an autograph, and you were nowhere to be found. And I said, yeah. You got to stop doing that. I said, I don't want to. I did my part. She says, no. After the show, I want you to go by the front door and thank people for coming. And if they want to take a picture, take a picture. And if they want an autograph, sign an autograph and just smile and do it. Because you are who you are because of those people. And I'm like, oh, God.
I got to say, I agree with her. This is what you signed up for, buddy.
No, I signed up to just do the work.
It's part of it now.
So, yes, that's why this year is fearless, because I have been in between acting gigs. I am a motivational speaker. I do a lot of, I'll tell you a funny story that came about of this. After the movie, my last movie was in the theaters, came out, and all the PR on it, and I was on the news and what have you. One of my neighbors says she's become good friends with my wife. I didn't know. I only see her when I'm out running or walking my dog, and I'll say, hey, right? And she's like, her phone rings, and my wife gets on the phone. She goes, oh, yeah. And she goes, how did I not know this? We've been neighbors for how long? And my wife says, yeah, Charles doesn't talk about that part of his life. She goes, well, that's fantastic. I didn't know. And she goes, it's Black History Month. We'd love for him to come to the school. She's the principal of the school, and talk to the junior highs. And I said, well, when I do these corporate type things, it's very expensive. I don't know if you guys can afford me. And my wife's like, you're going to do it for free. Okay. Fair enough. So I went and did it. And what happened is I went and did a talk. I talked to the grade 7 to 9 in the middle school. I talked for about an hour, and then I had questions. And afterwards, all these kids lined up, and they wanted autographs and pictures, and all of it was exhausted. Fun, but exhausted. But she sent an email to all of the Catholic schools. Okay. And said, you have to have this guy come. And my inbox and my phone started blowing up. And I've been doing 2 or 3 a week.
Getting paid for those ones?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. But I would gladly have done it for free because it was so much fun. It's so great to connect with kids, and they have such fantastic questions. And I'm a storyteller. I just tell a story of my life, and they want to know, how did you get started, and what was it like, and who did you work with, and is it scary, and all, and I was like, yeah, I could gladly do this all the time. And that part I don't mind.
Right. It's just you don't want people fawning over you is what you're saying.
It's weird.
Okay.
Because, I go home and I still got to go pick up the dog poop in the backyard. All right. I'm just a guy who lives in Calgary,
I'm sure you could actually find a fan who will pick it up for you. You might not want them in your life for a long period of time.
Yeah, maybe.
But, I'm sure you could find somebody.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, let's talk about the new film. Mm-hmm. Actually, when was it released? It was
released a month and a half ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Left Behind. So there's a great story there for you, Gary, if you'll indulge me. I get the script, and they said, we'd like you to play this role. And I said, okay, fine. I put a little something on tape for them, but it was kind of like assumed that it was just a given. And my son, he's 15, he's also my social media manager, because I don't do that stuff. And he says, oh, this is based on a series of books and stuff. He goes, so I looked it up. I don't think you really know what you signed up for, Dad. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, these books have sold like 80 million copies. And there are online groups about these books. And they're like Harry Potter fans. They're fanatical about the characters. They're fanatical about he said there was movies done before, and they've picked them apart. They don't like if it doesn't follow the book exactly, or you deviate from scripture. And he goes, and your character, Pastor Barnes, is one of the central characters in this book series. you don't know what you signed up for. And I was like, oh, okay. And he goes, you should watch the movies. I said, I can't, because I don't want it to color
You don't want,
my interpretation. I didn't even know like there was a Nicolas Cage version of this movie, and then there was the first one was done by Kirk Cameron, and there's groups they've picked sides. There's those who love the Nicolas Cage ones and those who like the Kirk Cameron ones, and he's telling me all this. I said, stop. I'm just gonna go. I like the story. I like the character. And I'm gonna come at it from my own take, right? He's a human being, and the story is Left Behind is about the rapture, and it's a very Christian faith-based film. And Pastor Barnes has a crisis of faith in that he's been talking the talk but not walking the walk. He doesn't necessarily believe what he's preaching. And then he gets up and the rapture has happened, and his wife and his kids are gone, but he's left behind. And now he has to deal with that. And he has to deal with all the parishioners who've also been left behind. And the world goes into a tailspin kind of thing, and he's got to deal with the ramifications of that. That's not even about religion for me. That's a man in crisis. You know, he starts drinking and all that. So in his belief system has been challenged. That's what actor wouldn't want to play all of that.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that, you know, it's a nice big juicy role, and I'm a Canadian actor, those don't come along very often.
Right? As you were describing everything, I was actually kind of going back, and I'm like, I think I actually auditioned for that role.
Oh, really?
I think I did, yeah.
It's possible.
Or at least I was definitely auditioned for, I don't know if there's another.
Yeah, there's a minister. He is the junior pastor, and there's another individual. He gets taken. Right.
Maybe
So
that's the one I auditioned for.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew it was something to do with the movie.
I'm
though,
happy
as
to
we were
hear that
talking
you
about it.
auditioned, because it was also an interesting thing, because I had some actor friends in my circle of actors who some were like, this is a great role, and others are like, oh, I don't know if I'd want to do this role, Charles. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, you know. Such drama behind the scenes for me with this film. Such drama.
Well, do tell some of the drama.
Yeah.
Because I got to get the ratings up. So
No, the drama in the sense that it's a faith-based film. And it stars Kevin Sorbo, Neil McDonough, Corbin Bernstein, Greg Perot, Sarah Fisher, really great people. And this is my third time working with Kevin. You know, we did Andromeda together a number of years ago, and then I did another film with another faith-based film with him, where again I play a minister in that one called Miracle in East Texas, and then so when they called me for this, you know, it was kind of like, Kevin would like you to play Pastor Barnes, blah blah blah, great. But people are like, oh, you're doing a movie with Kevin Sorbo? You know his political views, and I went, no one's ever asked me about that before, you know. And what has that got to do with the price of tea in China? We're actors. We're going to show up and do our jobs. Kevin and I get along very well. We've known each other for years now. Like I said, it's my third time with him. He's a fantastic director. He's very right. But some people have their, you know, and we live in an interesting world now where you can't have a discerning opinion from somebody else's and then say, hey, you know what, we can agree to disagree and move on. These days, everybody's got to affirm, and you got to pick a side. And I'm like, not picking a side, sorry. Here's the side that I'm on. Journeyman actor, happy to be on a movie set, love the character that I'm getting to play. I'm going to go and tell a little story. And that's all there is to it.
well, fair enough.
Right? But there was that, and you know, it was and the interesting thing too is like I've played in my career drug dealers, cops, delinquent youth. When I was first started out my career, the first 10 or so things on my resume is me being a delinquent, because I was young when I started, and then I was too old to play delinquents, and I didn't work for 2.5 years because I wasn't old enough for older roles. And then finally I booked something as a detective. And then I started playing lawyer, doctor, cop, professor, teacher. And not once has anybody ever said, oh, you're playing a lawyer, so what's your law background? But for this film, oh, you're playing a Christian pastor, so are you religious? You know how many times I got asked that? And I was like, huh. Okay, I play a senator in my next movie. Don't ask me what my political affiliation is because I don't have one, right?
Right.
Yeah, it was so interesting, some of the questions that came up because of it's a faith-based film. And it's not really, it's a faith-based film, but if you take that piece out, it's about the human condition. It's people dealing with crisis. We just went through a crisis. We're all survivors. That's why I always say to people, we survived a pandemic.
Yeah.
And it changed our world and it changed our lives. And it taught us or made us question what we valued and what was important to us when things were taken away from us and our movement was restricted, or, we had to wear a mask and some of us wanted to and some of us didn't. We came through all of that as survivors. Wow. Right.
Yeah. And kind of going on that topic a little bit, I don't want to spend too much time because, I try not to get too political. However, yeah, the pandemic did create a huge division between two groups of people, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, and I'm not even pertaining to this show specifically necessarily, but in your experience since COVID's kind of hit, have you found that those political divides have affected film in any way or working with people?
I don't know if it's affected how we do things. Some people, again, love it. Others don't. I'm on the side of I like it. I like that I don't have to get in my car and drive someplace for an audition and rearrange my whole day. I like, putting auditions on tape. I love the freedom that it gives you to prep and take your time and put your best foot forward. I still treat it like an actual audition in that once I've walked downstairs to my studio that I have set up for recording stuff, then I'm at the audition. There's no going back now. There's no changing your mind. There's no last minute prep. You're in the room. As soon as I walk on, I turn on the lights and my crew, my wife and my children are there to read and run the camera for me. You're in the audition room. That's it. I treat it that way. And I don't do 15, 20 takes because you don't get 15, 20 takes in the room. Mm-hmm. Right? Yep. Do your job. Be professional. Go. Now, the downside of that is there's a lot more opportunity. It's a broader world. My competition is everywhere.
Yep.
Right? I'm auditioning. I'm getting way more auditions for really great stuff. That's the upside. The downside is I'm getting way more auditions for really great stuff, and I'm competing with a bigger pool. And you don't get the feedback in the room, people say, and that's true too, but sometimes you didn't get the feedback in the room anyhow.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, not always.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah. So you'll call me?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for coming. But
thanks for coming. Or sometimes it's be disconcerting being in the room because the producers and the director and everybody's sitting there and the only person making eye contact with you is the casting director. Everybody else is looking down or eating their lunch.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a couple of those. Yeah.
And they don't look up. And you're like, I don't know. Was that good? Was that not good? At least at home, I finish it. My wife says she's usually my reader. My son handles the camera. He's also an actor and soon to be a model. He's 6'2" at 15.
Oh, wow.
And he's like I said, he's my social media manager. And I'll tell you how that came about. Started doing all this PR for different shows that I'm doing and stuff. And then they invited me to talk at schools. And he says, they're not going to know who you are. And I said, why? He goes, well, they're teenagers, Dad. They're like me. Their medium is social media, and you're not on social media. And I said, dude, what are you talking about? I have 5,000 followers on Facebook. And he starts laughing. Dad, Grandpa's on Facebook. So I now have Instagram and what else I got? He signed me up. I got Instagram. I have something called TikTok that I don't know anything about, but he's filmed and thrown a few videos up there for me. And I said, okay, you know what? This is your job. You post this stuff for me. I have no idea what to post half the time. So he's been recording stuff. And when I have a show, he'll post and stuff. So you see stuff on Facebook. 99% of the time, it's not me, it's him.
I do want to jump back to the film a little bit because the thing I've heard about your character actually, and I've talked to a few different people about it, is people love that character. And I've actually heard people who've seen the movie with you in it, and they love your portrayal of the character.
Thank you.
So I'm just kind of curious what your prep was to get into that character.
The usual. I look for the humanity in every character that I play. That's what draws me in. It's about the human condition, the human connection, what first of all, where do we have things in common? I was an altar boy. I was raised Catholic. So the religious portion of that I got, right? But he had a wife, he had children, and he was doing a job, and it said so right in the dialogue, and that's the part that I focused on. He was saying the words, but he didn't necessarily believe it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how many times are people, doing a job? This is your 9 to 5, your day in, day out, but you haven't bought in to what's going in. You're working because you need a job and need to provide for your family, but you're not fully vested and bought in. And that's kind of where I thought he was, because I've had jobs where it's like, well, I need to do this in between gigs, so here we go, but I don't really love this. And, or you show up in corporate world and they say, this is going to be the best year ever. And you're sitting there going, no, it's not. But everybody else is drinking the Kool-Aid, so I guess I better put my hand up and go rah, 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 but I don't have to believe it. And that's where I jumped in with Pastor Barnes, is that he didn't believe it until it actually happened, and then he had to really find the truth in what he'd been proselytizing. And that's, to me, I was like, yeah, I get you, I understand you, right? And then it was learning all of the dialogue. Because it's based on a book, because it's faith-based, because it's scripture, and he's the pastor. I cannot do my usual as an actor, which is you don't have to get all the lines 100% correct. As long as you get 98% of it correct, you can, miss a few. You can truncate it so it comes out of your mouth properly. No, verbatim, especially on the scripture.
Yeah.
Oh my. So that was the prep. And then we were also, while filming, they were still doing rewrites.
That's always fun.
And so when you have like pages and pages of dialogue to memorize and scripture to memorize, and I remember one night I was at home, I'd just gotten off set, we worked a 14-hour day, and I'm prepping my poor wife. She's my reader and my prepper, and I'm running my lines with her and everything, and then my phone beeps, and I looked over and they said, there's been a rewrite. Ignore the sides that you have for tomorrow. You'll get new sides when you arrive. It's 7 pages of dialogue for me for tomorrow, and I'm going to get new sides when I arrive. Are you kidding me? I was not able to sleep that night, and I showed up on set 3 hours earlier than my call time. Where's the script?
Right.
Got in my car, went back home. Honey,
let's go through this.
Let's go through this line by line, make sure I've got it, memorized. And yeah, but it is what it is. You show up and you do your job, right?
For sure. And kind of at the beginning of your comment here, you stated the usual. So is this kind of your general approach, is find the humanity in your character first?
Find the humanity in the character first. Every single time. Why is he doing what he's doing? There are no such thing as bad people. There are people who make bad choices. So I've played bad guys, this. But in my world, they're not bad guys. They're people making bad choices based on their circumstance. They don't think, oh, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to be a bad guy. They're going out here, I'm going to do what I got to do to protect my family, provide for my family, put food on the table. And if this is the only avenue for me, then that's where I'm going to go. And we can justify our behavior. That's where I start every single time, right? It's not, well, this guy's a bad guy. I'm like, no, he's not. I bring humanity to the character. He's making a choice, and what's his rationale for making his choice? And if it's not in the script, make it up.
Right.
That's always my process. Why am I doing what I'm doing? What circumstances is it? And how do I get through it, right? And then you find the humanity, and that's how you can make a bad guy, quote unquote, a human being.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I also try to always find the humor in every scene.
Okay.
Every scene's got some funny in it. Human beings are funny. All right. You do stuff, but you don't know it's funny until people look at it. But sometimes I've gotten cast because I'm the only one who came into the audition and found the humor and the humanity, and the director and the writer said, that's what we've been looking for. I find the humor in every scene. There's always one.
It's kind of funny you mentioned that because the role I got on Winona Earp, that was the approach I took when I did the audition was more funny.
Yeah.
And Rhonda came back and said, you were the only one who actually made it funny.
Yeah.
So that's why we brought you back in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I love the craft of acting. That's why I do it, the study of it, the craft of it. But what we are, at the end of the day, we are storytellers. We are reflectors. It doesn't matter what the medium is of what's going on in the world. And it doesn't matter what's going on. You're still people. And sometimes we laugh when we're sad and we cry when we're happy, right? There's always humor underlying. It doesn't have to be overt. Mm-hmm. There's always love. There's always humor, right? There's always those two. And then the third piece that I always factor in, giving away my acting secret. Every conversation between a man and woman is about what? Sex. You have to put that layer in there. When a man's talking to a woman, you recognize the feminine energy across from you. Doesn't mean you're attracted to her and you're going to get naked, but you have to have that understanding, that layer. It's got to be there. And there's always, the humor, the interaction, what makes us people. That's where you start. I do that it doesn't matter if it's one line or 100 lines. I do that with every audition, every character as I start. Find the humanity. The who, what, why, when, and where. Or else why do we exist?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the other one that I think you left out was the awkwardness.
Sometimes the awkwardness.
Yes.
Everybody has, running commentary in the back of their head all the time. And it's like we forget as actors, we think, oh, I'm acting. No, you're not. You're reacting to what's happening. And sometimes that's what makes it great, is because you can do all the prep you want, as you well know, as an actor yourself. And then you show up on set and the director has a total different vision. Yeah. Or you imagine how the other actor is going to deliver their line, and then you do the rehearsal, and they say it in a different cadence or a different speed or a different tone or a different energy than you were expecting, and you have to switch. But what you have to do is be in the room and respond accordingly, because it's not how you'd mapped it out in your head, not how you rehearsed it at home with your poor wife who's your reader, right? And now you're going, oh, I was expecting your cadence to go this way and your inflection on that word to go up, and you went down. Oh. And all that's got to be processed, and you respond, because that's what acting is. It's reacting. It's not. Yeah. Right? So fun.
For sure. And like you said, it doesn't really matter how you did it in the audition. Once you're on set, totally different. Definitely been there a few times. Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, no, this is not how I read it at all.
Yeah.
You'll have to find somebody else for this.
Yeah.
Never said that.
No, what I've had happen is the writers looked up from his lunch and went, oh, that's not how I envisioned it when I wrote it, but I like what you're doing. Do that again and give me a little more. Okay. You know what? What are you doing for the next 2 weeks? You're hired. I've had that happen in the room.
Yeah, that's cool. Right. That's very nice. We're actually almost out of time here, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you two relatively quick questions. The first one is kind of what's coming up for you?
What's coming up? Well, on the comedy side, I'm kind of in the middle of an unofficial tour, so I've got a bunch of shows booked in, Canadiana, Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, Saskatoon, Regina in the next few weeks. So that's fun. I also have a film that's going to come out, I hope soon. It's in post-production, so that's kind of nice. Ties That Bind, which was done locally with some really fantastic local people. And then I just found out this morning I'm going to be playing Senator Norm Johnson in Shadow Recruit, which is another local production that's coming up. And so, yeah, I got stuff going on. So
definitely,
knock on wood, be happy. And hopefully we have the year that they tell us that we're going to have. The writers don't go on strike.
I was going to say, yeah.
But you know what? If there isn't work as an actor, then I just go to plan B. I go back to doing stand-up, and I go back to doing the motivational speaking. I'm also have a script that I wrote with I wrote it. It's being produced by myself and my friend Patrick Creary, and being directed by my other friend Nadine. And that's going to go to camera in September, called Choice. So
Nice.
I'm always got a million things going on at once. That's the only way I like it. I don't like when I have nothing on my agenda.
I think my schedule's clear for September, so just let me know. Final question I'll kind of ask you is, for yourself, what would you say is your biggest attribute as an actor?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that. And I think what I bring to the table is my attitude. I show up on a movie set, and I'm the happiest guy on set. It's like, people ask me all the time, why you always got this big grin on your face? I'm a Canadian actor on a movie set? Seriously? That's why I'm grinning. When I get to do what I love and what brings me joy, it's my happy place. Performing is my happy place. It's my outlet for my creativity. Give me any opportunity to do that. I just want to do the work. Like I said, it's the fluff that comes around it sometimes that weirds me out. But doing the actual work, I come with the greatest of gratitude in my attitude when I'm on set. I'm going to do stuff like this. Greatest of gratitude, because this is the fun part.
Yeah.
The other stuff is whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Perfect. Thanks, man.
thank you.
We'll kind of wrap it up there. I want to thank Charles for coming on board again. Yes.
Yeah,
then
thanks
come
for
back.
having me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks again to the sponsors who have helped us out this year. And thanks for Jared, who's with Workflow Film, for doing the camera work. And Regan for doing the sound. So thank you, guys. Appreciate
you.
that. And we'll see you next time. Take care.